Good morning. I welcome you all to the webinar about a complete overview of Zoho Meeting. In this webinar, you will explore how Zoho Meeting can be used for video conferencing and webinars. Before we get started, please note that the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared with you shortly. Let's see how you can interact with us today. As an attendee of the webinar, you will all be in listen and view only mode. I hope I am audible to everybody. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to ask them in the Q&A option on your screen, and our experts will respond to your questions throughout the session. And of course, we will have some time at the end for a dedicated Q&A session as well. An introduction about myself. This is Kavitha from Zoho Meeting team, and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. I'm having an experience of 2 years in the video conferencing platform, and I'm an expertise in the online meeting and webinar too. Comes the agenda for today's session. I'm going to start with a brief introduction about Zoho Meeting and how should we use it. With the demonstration of the new version, I will give you a complete walkthrough of Zoho Meeting. Then we will have some scenarios to get an overview on how exactly the module works. Followed by this, we will learn how to set up your account with corporate branding, add users, and associate profiles. Finally, I'll wrap up the session with a roadmap to show you some of the upcoming features in online meeting and webinar solutions. Here are the basic system requirements to conduct an online meeting and webinar. Zoho Meeting is a web conferencing solution built to manage both your online meeting and webinar requirements. We use WebRTC technology to host the session right from your browser, and it is compatible with Mac, Windows, and Linux. You can use your computer's built-in microphone and speakers, or you can also join the meetings on the go over your phone from any part of the world. Now, we will see a brief introduction about our online meeting software. Using Zoho Meeting, you can host online meetings with real-time audio, video, and screen sharing. You can initiate or join meetings from anywhere and collaborate effectively with the moderator controls. So, this online meeting module will be most helpful if you want to conduct a conference or engaged in a remote work and provide remote clinical services to your patients. Now that we have understood how Zoho Meeting can be used as a video conferencing tool, now let's see about the overview of Zoho Meeting. This is the home screen of Zoho Meeting. To schedule a meeting, you can log on to meeting.zoho.com, or if you have a Zoho Meeting desktop application installed on your computer, you can schedule from your desktop app as well. In the home page, you can see Meet Now and Schedule Meeting button in order to get a quick access to your online meetings. Whenever quick decisions are needed, you can conduct instant meetings from anywhere using the Meet Now button. So here, you can easily distinguish which type of conferencing you want to host. You can now start audio-only meetings by using the audio conferencing option under Meet Now. Though you have selected the audio conference, you can anytime switch to the video conferencing option within the meeting window without moving away from the session. So right now, I'm going to start an instant meeting and invite my colleagues in my ongoing session. So this redirects you to the meeting window, and we have done certain enhancements where you need not to have the audio and the video devices to be chosen. So which will be chosen automatically by remembering the options chosen on your previous meetings. And this is how the presenter screen looks like. And in order to enhance the ease of access, we have totally revamped the meeting window. Right now, I'm going to show you how come the participants will be joining the session. If you'd like to invite someone on your ongoing session, you need not to go back to your meeting details page. Zoho Meeting provides an option to invite the participants by getting the join link or else sending an invite right from the meeting window. So right now, I have copied this link and I'm going to join as a participant for the same meeting. Here I'm using the join link, and the participants need not to download any application to join the session because this is going to join the session from the browser itself. Participants can choose the audio and the video sources of their choice to join the session. And they can also join the session using the phone audio, using the dial-in numbers given for the respective countries, along with the access code. So in case if they have very poor internet connection, they can overcome this by joining the sessions from their mobile phones. So right now, I'm going to choose computer audio for this respective session, and I'm clicking on done. So this is how the participant screen looks like. Now we come back to the presenter screen. On the bottom menu bar, you will be provided with a list of tools and tabs with its respective features. Participants tab contains a list of participants, those who have joined your session. Using the more actions provided next to each listing, you can see certain options and controls. So the first one is where you can replace their official names with their nicknames. The second option is give control, which is a moderator control provided within the session. So this option is to let anyone take control over your screen to point out something when you do a screen share. So this is nothing but a remote access by providing your mouse and keyboard control to them. So currently the option seems disabled, which means the screen is currently not shared. The third one is to remove the participants from the session when they are no longer part of your discussion. And we have recently introduced in-session co-host role change, through which you can make any participant as a co-host within the session itself. If you're having any other work or have to jump on to another meeting, you can quickly make any of your participants as a co-host and leave the session. Now, coming to mute icon, you can use the individual mute icon provided next to each participant. Or else, you can go for the mute all button to mute them in a single click. If you have a bulk volume of participants, you can use the search and sort to search for any respective participant that you're looking for. And the filter icon is to easily categorize your attendees with respect to the devices which they have used to join the session. Now, coming to the top, if you have started an instant meeting, the session will be titled after your name. You can use the edit icon next to the meeting title to change it as per your requirement. All right. Now we are going to move on to the next tab, chat. So where you can have a collaborative communication among your participants using this public chat. Similarly, the participants will also have an option to chat with the presenter as well as with the other participants. We have Zoho Click integration in the online meeting chat, where you can send images, share files and documents using the attachment icon. You can also express your thoughts better by sending out the emojis. And if you're muted during the meeting to avoid any interruption, you can make use of the microphone icon to send out voice messages through the chat. All right. So now we are going to the next topic on start sharing. Screen sharing is an essential part of collaborating during the online meeting. Anyone in a meeting can share their screen with other participants. In order to make your whole screen visible to others, you can go for entire screen. Or if you'd like to share any respective application like PowerPoint, Adobe, or any PDF document, you can go for window sharing. Similarly, the participants will also have an option to share their screen with others. Now, back to the presenter screen, let's move on to session timer. In order to stick to the meeting time, you can use the session timer to track down the duration on how long the session is getting hosted. Recently, we have come up with some of the features which makes the session to be more interactive. The participants and the presenter can raise their hands to clarify their concerns. Additionally, they can also use the live reactions to react when someone is speaking. And as the presenter, you can also see a live count on the number of raised hands from the icon down below. Now we are going to the more actions. So from the more actions, you can easily change the settings of your current meeting and use the moderator controls provided within the session. First, let's see about session notes. So we have introduced the built-in notes feature, which is actually powered by Zoho Notebook. Using this, you can take down any important lectures and points that has been discussed during the session. Now we are going to the second one, which is lock meeting. In order to conduct a secure online meeting and to minimize the interruptions, you can make use of the lock meeting feature. Through this, you can make your meetings more confidential to keep them secure from unexpected attendees. You will be notified when someone tries to enter your meeting, so you can let them in only if you want to. Now, I'm going to show you a sample on how exactly the lock meeting feature works. So right now I have enabled the lock meeting and I'm going to join this respective session as another participant. And this will be taking to the meeting launch page. So this is how it looks like. So this is the launch page where the participant has been notified that the meeting is locked and waiting for an approval. Now, when you come back to the presenter screen, the presenter will have a pop-up in order to accept or reject the entry. Participants will not be able to join the session even though if they have the join link. Once the participants gets approval from the presenter, then they can join the session. So you can use this lock meeting option as a waiting room concept for your meeting. Now we are going to the third topic, which is recording. You can record all your meetings to watch them online later, and also you can share it with the members who couldn't attend your meeting. When you start recording the session, the participants will be notified with a recording in progress message due to privacy reasons. Moreover, I have enabled auto recording functionality for my meeting, so the session starts to record automatically without my intervention. Virtual background. Using the virtual background, you can easily change the background of your current meeting and also disable the same on your ongoing session. Now let's move on to network performance. Using the network, you can now check the performance of your network and how your bandwidth is getting optimized in your current session. Now we move on to the third last one, which is the audio or the video settings. So using this tool, you can now easily change your microphone or the camera devices on your ongoing session without ending the meeting. So now let's move on to the layouts. So using the layouts, you can easily switch the video feeds of your participants as well as the presenter within the gallery view, active speaker, and the sidebar. And finally, let's move on to preferences. So using the preferences, you can easily enable or disable the other settings that has been provided for your current meeting. So it depends upon your choice whether you can enable or disable it. And once you're done with the meeting, you can click on the exit button to end the meeting for all of your participants.
The meeting has ended. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
All right. As of now, we saw on how to conduct an online meeting. Now, we will learn a few things in Zoho Meeting based on scenarios. Here comes the scenario one. Let's imagine we have a business HR who had conducted a meeting with his colleagues and looking for a way to access the notes taken down during the session. Here, Zoho Meeting provides an option to collect the notes at the session summary. Let me tell you how. At the end of every meeting, the chat conversation done during the session can be downloaded, and you can also view the notes that has been taken down during the session. So instead of searching for these details, you can easily get it accessed from the session summary itself. Now we go for scenario two. Here, a product manager wants to schedule a meeting with his colleague and his product line. For this, you need to access meeting.zoho.com and click on the schedule meeting button. So here comes the scheduling page where you can give a suitable title for your meeting and a detailed description in the agenda. So once done with this, you can choose the date, time, and the duration on how long the meeting will be organized. And coming to the host field, by default, you will be the presenter of the meetings that you schedule. You can also use the drop-down option to assign the presenter role to other members in your organization. Now we come to the participant field. Here you can select and invite the members from your contact list. Here we have done an internal integration with the Zoho contacts where you can import your primary and secondary contacts from Google, Yahoo, local file, as well as from the Outlook as well. So if you have the contacts already imported, these contacts will be listed on the meeting category. So whenever you schedule any meeting, these contacts will be automatically suggested on the scheduling page. So whenever the meeting is actually scheduled, the listed participants will be receiving an invitation email along with a join button in it. All they need to do is they need to click on the join meeting button to join the online meeting. Now I'm going to show you a sample invite on how come the meeting invite will be looking like. So here comes the career invitation email that I have already sent it to my Gmail account, and this is how it looks like. So this will have a RSVP section. So through this, you can know how many participants will be joining the meeting before you begin it. So invitees can click on any of the three options, yes, maybe, or no. So you will receive the response emails based on the options they choose. And they will have a join meeting button to join the session at the scheduled time. All right. So now we move on to scenario 3. All right. Now we have a managing director of a company wants to discuss the work progress on each and every month with his employees. For this, as a presenter, you need not to create a meeting for each and every month because Zoho Meeting provides an option to create a recurring meeting from more options. Let me tell you how. You need to go for the scheduling button, and in the scheduling page itself, you will find an option called more options. So from the more options, you can start scheduling the recurring meetings. So usually we have daily, weekly, and monthly meeting to be scheduled. And here comes the recurring meeting option. And here you need to choose the frequency. For example, if you're going to schedule a monthly meeting, you can specify when and how that meeting should repeat and when it should end. So here you can click on the date to provide an end time. So the loop will be ended by 23rd of June. So what will happen is this schedules the events and recurrences with the same link for the entire series. So the participants can use the same join link to join the session on each and every month. Now we're going to the next topic on co-host. We have recently introduced the co-host feature where you can add your org users to join the meeting as a co-host. They have most of the controls just like the presenter of the meeting. If you're not available that day or not having an access to your laptop, the co-host can start the meeting on your stead. Besides, you can also set reminders like how long before an email reminder has to be sent. Through this, you can make sure that everybody makes it to your meeting on time before it starts. Now let me show you how it works. So when you're done with scheduling of meeting, you can click on the schedule meeting button, which will take you to the meeting details page. So here you can see the complete details about the presenter, topic of the meeting, and invited participants from here. Now I'm going to walk you through what are all the different ways for a participant to join the session. If you don't remember the email ID of a participant while scheduling the meeting, we have also provided you another set of options. You can ask your participants to go meet.zoho.com and ask them to enter the meeting ID provided here. This is actually a unique ID which has been generated for this respective meeting. Using this ID, they can join the meetings from web browsers like Chrome or Firefox. And for security reasons, all the meetings you schedule will be password protected. The password will be auto-filled and cloaked on the join link URL or the join meeting button when the participants tries to join the session. So they need not to enter the password manually when they are joining the session. The second way, which is actually a simplest way, by you can simply copy this link and send it from your personal email or messaging apps. Now we go for the last way, which is only for the invitees who can use the join meeting button sent along with the meeting invite. Now coming back to the meeting details page, here at the right side you can see the edit button where you can reschedule the meeting to postpone the session or do any modifications like inviting more participants as well. Unfortunately, if you're not available that day to conduct the scheduled meeting, you can also go for canceling the meeting using the cancel option. On these modifications, the participants will receive an email notifying them about these changes. Now, let's step on to the calendar. By default, all the meetings you schedule will be automatically added to your email calendars. Let's say if you are an Outlook user, that invite will be added to your Outlook calendar. If you'd like to add that event to your Windows or else your Mac calendar, you can make use of the add to calendar option that will download an ICS file where you can import it manually to your preferable calendars. Now, let's step on to embed widget. We also provide you an iframe code for the join link, which can be embedded onto your website. So anyone who visits your page will know about your meeting. They can simply entering their email address to join the session. So this is all about how you can schedule the meeting. So once they're done with scheduling of meeting, you can either start the meeting from the meeting portal using the start meeting button, or else you can use the presenter invite that you have received whenever the meeting is scheduled. So this is how you can schedule a successful meeting in Zoho Meeting. Now we jump on to the last scenario. Some of you would like to want the previous meeting to be conducted again. For this, you need not to create a new one by filling the details all over again. To achieve this, you can access the meeting account and click on the meetings tab. And from your past meeting section, you will have an option to repeat the meeting, to clone the past meeting to happen in the future. Not only an option to repeat the meeting, you can also retrieve the chat conversations and the notes of your past sessions. In addition to this, you will also have an option to join the meeting from your meeting account itself. Let me tell you how. You need to go to the upcoming meeting section and click on invited meetings from the drop down. So this will help you to list out all the meetings in which you have been invited by any organization user. So this will help you to save the time instead of searching for the join link from your inbox or from your calendar. Moreover, we have come up with a revamped view of the meeting listing page, which will help you to enhance the mode of access. All right, now it's time for some Q&As. Please use your Q&A tab to ask your questions, and we have a dedicated person here to assist you. Currently, we saw about how to conduct the meeting and how to schedule the meeting. Please do let us know if you have any questions about it. And in the meantime, we will move on to the next module. As of now, we saw on how to host and schedule the online meeting. Now, we move on to the next topic on how to schedule the webinars. Before we get on to this, let's have a brief introduction about our webinar software. Once you schedule your webinar, you can generate the leads by posting the registration link onto your website, blog, and social media. You can engage the leads throughout the session using polling and Q&A features. You can also now stream your ongoing webinar in YouTube in order to have a wider reach for your session. So, using our webinar tool, you can conduct webcasting, online events, workshop, or a training session. Now, let's see the overview of the webinar module. Moving back to the homepage of Zoho Meeting, click on the Webinars tab. So here you can see the list of upcoming webinars, past webinars, and analytics from where you will get all the webinar reports. Now let's discuss about this topic later. And right now I'm going to show you how to schedule webinars using Zoho Meeting. So when you click on the schedule button, this will take you to the scheduling page. Here you can design your webinar planning in a step-by-step process. The first step is scheduling, where you can give a suitable title for your webinar and a brief explanation of the major points that you will cover in the description. So here you can choose the date, time, and the duration on how long the webinar will be organized. And from the frequency, you can schedule recurring webinar to make the webinar happen on multiple occurrences. Unlike meeting, here you can choose the registration type, whether you need a single registration for a series of webinar or an individual registration for a recurring webinar. Once done with the first step, you can click on next. Now, let's talk about adding co-organizers for your webinar. While hosting a webinar, you can lighten your load by adding co-organizers to your session. You can add as many co-organizers to your webinar, and they need not to have a Zoho Meeting account for it. They can launch the webinar and also use some of the controls during the webinar, just like the organizer. Now I'm going to show you how to add a co-organizer. You need to enter their email address here and also their name. Once done with that, you will have an option of removing them if you have any last minute change, or else you can also send out the invite that has been already sent to them. And in case if they have mistakenly deleted the organizer invite, you can also use the join link provided for each added co-organizer. Now, let me show you a sample email invite of a co-organizer. So this is how it looks like, where they will have a join webinar button to join your session at the scheduled time. Now, coming back to the scheduling page, now let me take you to an important step of what are all the things the co-organizer can do. The co-organizer can co-host your presentation. They can also answer the questions from your attendees. They can launch polls, record webinars, and also make an attendee to speak during the session. So here, you can click on skip and finish to step into the final process, or else you can click on next to add the further details. And once you click on the skip and finish button, this will take you to the webinar details page, where you can see the complete details about the organizer, topic of the webinar, and the description. So These details can also be added while scheduling, or you can do the customization whenever you want from the webinar details page. All right. So now I'm going to walk you through the registration process. Whenever you create a webinar, it provides you a unique registration link from the share option. So I'm going to copy this link, and right now let me show you how the registration form looks like. And once they have registered, they will be taken to the default registration landing page, and this is how it looks like. The registrants can join the webinar using the join webinar option. If not, they can use the confirmation email which they have received right after the webinar registration. Now coming back to the registration landing page, they can also add their events to Google, Yahoo, Zoho, and Outlook calendar. If they don't use any these type of calendars, if they are using Mac or Windows calendar, they can simply download the ISCS file where they can import it to their preferable calendars. And if they need any clarification, they can contact the organizer of the webinar using the email address displayed at the bottom. As of now, you have seen how the person registers for the webinar. Now, let me take you to an important feature about the registration moderation. So here comes the moderation setup, which is actually a feature in order to qualify and bring the right audience for your webinar. By default, this setting remains in automatic mode. So where the registrants will get the confirmation email right after the webinar registration. On manual moderation, you will get to review the registration first, and then you can approve or deny them by manually. Now, let me show you an example on how exactly the manual moderation works. So here you can see the difference between these two pages on how exactly the automatic moderation and manual moderation page looks like. This registrant needs to wait for the organizer to confirm the registration first. Until then, this registrant will not be getting the confirmation email. As the organizer, you can manage and track those registrations from the details page. So here you can see the total count of the registrations. And when you click on that, here you will have the pending list whomsoever is waiting for the registration confirmation. So here you can click on the name, review that first, and then you can approve or deny them. And you will also have an option to get the join link of the respective registrant from here if they have mistakenly deleted the confirmation email. You will also get these details downloaded to your local machine using the export option. All right. Now, let's see some of the features in Zoho Webinar based on scenarios. Here, a sports equipment manufacturing company has organized a webinar to launch their new product. For marketing purposes, the product marketer of this company is looking for a way to find the registrants where exactly they come from. To achieve this, Zoho Webinar provides you a feature called source tracking to track where your registrants exactly come from. Let me show you how. You need to access the webinar details page, scroll to the bottom, where you will have an option called source tracking. Here you can add a source for your webinar registration from the details page. For example, if the source name is Facebook, you can enter the name and click on add. And you will be getting a unified link which can be copied and pasted on the Facebook page so that you will get the count on the number of visitors and the registrants. So this feature is going to help you to get a valuable information from where your registrants actually come from and finally helps you in the business growth. Now we move on to the second scenario. Here you will learn how to customize the email templates for the different emails sent to your registrants and attendees. For this, you need to access the webinar details page and go to the email section. Here from the email section, you can customize the emails sent to your audience during the entire course of your webinar. So click on the customize email, which will take you to the email customization page. So here you can create the template on your own using the insert plain text option, or else you can go for the predefined templates that we provide at the bottom. For an instance, let me show you a sample email invite which I have customized. And this is how it looks like. Similarly, you can customize it with your own branding by uploading your company logo, adding company profiles to let them know about your organization. And you can also attach the documents if you want to send it to your attendees post your session. Let's say if you want to add a certificate for the webinar that they have attended, you can make use of this option. While customizing the emails, you can also set reminders, like how long before an email reminder has to be sent. Through this, you can make sure that every attendee will be joining the session on time. You can also set multiple reminders where you can configure them by enabling or disabling it. Now we move for the next scenario. Some of you would like to include the recording of the webinar to be sent out to your absentees and attendees post your session. For this, you need not to run a separate campaign by creating it manually, because Zoho Webinar allows you to set up the recording link in the follow-up email. Let me tell you how. You need to access the email section, and here you need to click on the configure button next to the follow-up email. Here, you need to include the recording toggle and select how long after the recording template and the thank you email template has to be sent. So once it is done, you need to make sure that whether the customized template has been chosen and the recording link placeholder has been included or not. For this, you need to click on the edit icon, which will take you to this respective page. So here you need to click on use so that the thank you email template will be selected for this respective webinar. Using the preview button, you can easily check whether the recording link has been added or not. Moreover, we also provide you a clone option in the template itself. So where you can create the same templates again and again. Now we move for the fourth scenario. In this scenario, you will learn how to set up the restrictions for your registrations. Since we have a mandatory registration process for the webinar, you can use the registration settings to limit the number of registrations. So we have come up with a lot of restrictions options, which is provided on the webinar details page. So here, you can allow the registrations only from certain countries or else certain authorized domain or else using the business email address. For example, if you want to allow the registrations to come only from United States, you can select the United States country from here. Similarly, you can also block the registrations from certain countries using this respective toggle. Moreover, you can also set the limitation on the number of registrations. So once the webinar has reached the specified count, it will not further allow any registrations. Moreover, you can also avoid the spam registrations by allowing the registrants to join the session only from their confirmation email. Now we go for this scenario. Here you will learn how to keep your attendees engaged during the session and make your attendees to take action right after your webinar. In order to keep the attendees engaged during the session, you can create the polls from the engagement session. So here we have three different types of poll. One is single choice, multiple choice, and another one is star rating. Using the single and a multiple choice poll, you can let your audience to choose from a set of answers. Or else you can go for a star rating poll where you can let your audience to indicate how much they like about your feature, product, session, etc. And we have recently come up with session materials where you can attach a PDF or a video files over here. So let's discuss about this topic later when I'm providing you a demo about how to organize the webinar. Now, moving on to the other feature, which is post-webinar redirection. So this will make your attendees to get redirected to the website at the end of your webinar, where you can encourage them to sign up for your product or show them about your offers and provide ratings and feedbacks for your session. So all you need to do is just enable this toggle and enter the URL where you want the attendees to be directed post your session. All right. So this is all about how you can do the customizations for your webinar. Now, let's step on to how to promote your webinar now. Here you can see the registration link, which can be sent out to your target audience via email, social media, and other messaging apps. You can also drive the webinar registrations by embedding the registration form on web pages and blogs. So the people who visits your page will know about your webinar and they will register for it. In addition to this, you can also promote your webinar through integration of Zoho campaigns integration with Zoho Webinar. Instead of moving away from the tool, you can also share your webinar in your social media profiles like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And we also have added Zoho Click Chat within your meeting account. So using this, you can share the webinar registration link with your other users. Once done with scheduling and other customization, you can start the webinar at the scheduled time using the start button. Now I'm going to show you how to launch the webinar. So once the webinar is launched, it will not ask you to download any application to launch the session because this will launch the session from the browser itself. So here you can select what are all the devices that has been connected to your system. And here you can choose either you need to go for a computer audio or a phone audio. And we also come up with the virtual background features where you can display the predefined images and GIFs that we have provided. Once done with the source selection, you can click on proceed. And this is how the presenter screen of the webinar window looks like. Now, let me show you how come the attendee will be joining the session. So since I have already registered for the same webinar, I'm going to click on the join webinar button to join the session as an attendee. Here you can see the attendees need not to download any application, and this will make them to join the session from their browser itself. And they need to click on the join now button, and this is how an attendee screen looks like. Now back to the organizer screen. Though you have started the webinar, you will get to have a practice session with your co-organizers before you actually begin it. Until you click on the start broadcast button, attendees will not be able to hear or see the audio, video, and screen. So this can be used as a communication among yourselves. Until you click on this button, attendees will have a page stating that waiting for the webinar to broadcast. And once you're ready to present, you can click on the start broadcast button. And now the webinar will be broadcasted to all your attendees. And from the left panel, you can see the list of tools and tabs. And from the attendees tab, you can see the list of attendees, those who have joined the session. Using the search and sort, you can search for any respective attendee that you're looking for. With the more actions provided, you can see certain controls next to each and every attendee. You can make any attendee to communicate during the session by sharing the screen, showing the webcam, and talking. On doing this, it will make your session to be more interactive and engaging. Besides, attendees can also use raise hand option as a signal in order to grab the attention of the organizer, just like a physical classroom. And you can also make any attendee as a co-organizer in your ongoing session itself. You can also remove any attendee from the session when they are no longer part of your webinar. And from the filter icon, you can easily categorize the attendees who have been allowed to talk and who have raised their hands during this session. Now, we move on to the Q&A tab from the attendee screen. So using the Q&A tab, the attendees can ask the questions, and this will be listed on the organizer screen. Moreover, we also have Ask Anonymously option. So whenever they start typing in the questions, they will have an option to enable the toggle of Ask Anonymously so that their name will not be listed on the organizer screen. So the organizer and the co-organizers can view the questions on their Q&A tab. They can either answer the question privately or publicly and share that as an information with all the attendees. If you have a bulk volume of questions, you can use the predefined templates that we provide. And as an organizer, you can also send useful links, text, or email address to your attendees during the session. So this is actually a one-way communication from the organizer to the attendees. If still the attendees have any queries related to the broadcast message that you have sent, they can use the Q&A tab to clarify their concerns. You can also now assign the questions to your co-organizers in order to simplify the answering process. And you can also decline any questions if you feel it unnecessary to your session. You can set priority like high, medium, or low, where you can make the answering process in priority. Right now, let's move on to polls. In order to get a valuable insights from your audience, you can either create an instant poll using the add poll option. In case if you have forgotten to create a poll before you begin the webinar, you can do it on the session itself. Moreover, you can also launch the polls which you have already created before your webinar. So once the poll is launched, there will be a pop-up on the attendee screen in order to respond to your poll. Once they have responded, the results will be instantly generated on the organizer screen. By default, the results will be hidden to your attendees. If you'd like to show the results to them, you can go for publish result option. Now we move on to settings. So here you can easily change your microphone or the camera devices on your ongoing session. Similar to meeting, you can also check the performance of your network and how come the bandwidth is getting optimized on your current session. So this will help you whether your network is poor, good, or average. Now we're going to quickly jump on to a scenario. As of now, we saw about how to broadcast the webinar within the application. What if you want to have a real-time engagement on your session? Zoho Webinar provides live streaming option on YouTube. In order to have a wider reach for your product and maximize your audience, you can go for streaming your ongoing webinar in YouTube. So here you can access the Go Live option from the settings, which will help you to start broadcast the webinar in your YouTube channel. Now, from the notifications toolbar itself, you can easily check the notifications come up for the number of questions raised and the raised hands and the participants count in order to engage the overall attendee engagement. Now, back to the attendee screen, the attendees will have an option of live reactions. So using this, they can express their thoughts better by sending out the live emojis when someone is speaking. Now we are back to the organizer screen. Let's move on to start sharing. Using the start sharing, you can deliver the presentation and demo about the topic you're organizing. To share your screen, you can go for the screen sharing, which will help you to share either your entire screen or any specific application like a Adobe or a PDF document. If not, you can just share only the PDF files and play a video without going for the screen sharing. So instead of accessing the share screen, you can go for share material. This will help you to attach the files from your library or from your Zoho Work Drive account. So simply you need to add this from the library. And once it is attached, you will have an option to preview it first, and then you can share it with your attendees. So here you will have an option to play the video, so which will be heard to your attendees.
Oh, I see. You're on. I'll show you. It's okay. All right.
Once done, you can click on the end. So through this, you can upload the files from your Work Drive account or else from your library, and where you can play the video or else share only the files that you want to share. Now, at the top, you will find an option called recording, where you can record the webinar and send it to anyone who couldn't attend your webinar. If you're organizing the webinar as a sales group, you can share the webinar recording as a product demo or helpful video for new users. And I have enabled the auto recording functionality for the webinar, so the session starts to record automatically without my intervention. And using the session timer, you can easily calculate the duration on how long the webinar session is getting organized. You can also view the video feeds of your co-organizers and the organizer in gallery view as well as from the sidebar. And once you have done with the webinar, you can click on the end webinar button to end the webinar for all of your attendees.
Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
As discussed earlier, the attendees will have an option to leave the webinar, and that they will be directed to the page which you have set it up on the post-webinar redirection. Now, once the webinar is over, you can go to the webinars tab, and from the analytics, you will get the webinar reports of the respective sessions. For an instance, let me show you a sample webinar analytic template that I have already done. So this will contain the informations about the attendees, those who have joined the session, and the registrants who have already registered for the webinar, the registered time, the registration status, which has been accepted or pending, and even whether they have attended the webinar or not. So using the analytics tab, you will get a live count on the number of attendees, those who have joined the session. Moreover, what are all the results of the polls that has conducted during the session, and even the Q&A that has been raised during the session. You can also download a complete performance report of your webinar in XLS or CSV files. So let me show you the report that I have already done for another webinar. So here comes the report of registrants those who have already registered, whether they have attended the webinar or not. And you can also see the list of attendees, those who have joined the session, the duration on how long they have been in the session. And from the generate report, you can download a consolidated report about your number of attendees and registrants with respect to their name, email address, country, and their participation status. So here you can download the performance report of your webinar in XLS or CSV files. All right, now we move on to the recordings tab. So as of now, we saw on how to host and schedule the meetings and webinars. Now we're going to learn how to revisit the topic that you have discussed during the session. So from my recordings, you can see the list of all the session recordings of your meetings and webinars separately. Here you can replay the recordings online using the play option, or else you can share it with the members who couldn't attend your meeting and webinar. If you'd like to download the recording to your local machine, you can make use of the download icon provided next to each listing. If you'd like to delete the recordings to free some space, you can make use of the delete icon provided next to each listing. And we have come up with some of the features in the recordings tab. We have provided you an accessibility permission where you can disable this public access few days after sharing the link. And we also have the recording bulk delete option in order to help you to save the time. Currently, we saw about how to initiate the sessions from the web browsers. Now, we're going to learn about the several ways of joining the session. Zoho Meeting does have iOS and Android app to get connected remotely when you don't have an access to a laptop or a desktop. You can use the Zoho Meeting mobile applications to hold meetings, attend live webinars, participate in polls, make video calls, and much more. All this can be done from the Zoho Meeting mobile application. All right. Now we step on how to set up your Zoho Meeting account and customize it as per your requirement. Here, we step on to the last tab, settings. So from my settings, you can set up the local information such as the time zone of your location and the time format for the future meetings and webinars that you schedule. Moreover, we provide multi-language support system in order to avoid the language barriers. We provide an option of 16 languages that can be chosen from the drop-down of your Zoho Meeting account. You can also sync the meetings and webinars to your Google Calendar. So here we have a toggle of including the add to Google Calendar option. So what will happen is the events that you are created in meeting and webinar will be automatically synced to your Gmail calendar. Below that, you can see the settings of the meetings and webinars that can be enabled or disabled according to your choice. Since it is a user-based setting, this will be available to all the users in your organization. Under Manage Organization, you can promote the branding by adding the company logo and the company name to the email headers of invitations, reminders, and registration forms. Next to co-branding, you can see the meeting and webinar related settings provided. So since it is a managed organization setting, this will be available only to the admin user. Now we step on to custom domain. So here you can have a unique branded name on the URL, which identifies your website. You can add a domain name over here once the domain is approved. Instead of meeting.zoho.com, you can have it customized with your own branding. Now, let's jump on to user management. Under user management, you can manage all the users and their respective profiles. You can also add a new user to your organization and remove the members from your organization who has left your company. Through this tab, you can designate the roles of each user as well in order to maintain your organization hierarchy. Departments. This is a newly released feature which allows you to categorize your entire organization into small groups. So, this will help you to increase the ease of managing the users. You can create the departments and add the users to any number of departments as per your requirement. Emails. So, this is only for the webinar module. Here you can add a reply to email address from the email section. So the reply to email address can be of a team member or a department member, or as the member from your organization, like a help desk, who can answer the queries instantly. So this makes the process so simple by handing over the job to your team members. Security. This tab will help you to anonymize all the personal data such as name, email address, IP address, or other registration related information. From the action log viewer, you can also see the list of activities performed by the users of your organization and the date when it was performed. Subscription. From the subscription, you will get the details of your current subscription of your Zoho Meeting account, where you can also manage the same. Now, we move on to integrations. Zoho Meeting provides integration with other Zoho products such as CRM, bookings, campaigns, mail, backstage, projects, click, sprints, etc. Now, we're going to see the most of the frequently used integration in Zoho Meeting. CRM. We have meeting integration and webinar integration with CRM, where you can push the webinar registrants as leads or contacts in your CRM account. Bookings. You can integrate your online meeting integration with Zoho Bookings, where you can share the booking links with your clients to let them book appointments with you at their convenience. For every appointment your client is booking, a meeting will be created on your Zoho Meeting account. Mail. With the online meeting integration with Zoho Mail, you can schedule the meetings and host the online meetings directly from your inbox itself. Not only the integration with Zoho products, we also have the integration with third-party major applications. One of them is Microsoft Teams. Using this integration, you can conduct instant meetings with your people directly from your Teams channel. Now, moving back to the home screen of Zoho Meeting, now let's see how you can communicate with your organization members. You can use the chat tab provided in your meeting account to communicate with the organization users. So without stepping onto a meeting, you can collaborate with them effectively if you got engaged in any other work. You can see the download icon at the top where you can download the desktop app right from this page. So using the desktop app, you can overcome the browser limitation and enjoy the session with better stability and optimization. We also have Zoho Meeting plugin for Microsoft Outlook. So using this, you can download the plugin to your machine and where you can schedule the meetings directly from your Outlook account. Now, let's move on to the another slide. So here you will see the features which are being handled in our upcoming update. First, let's see for webinar. In addition to the share material feature, we're also working on with the presentation upload through which you can share the presentation without going for the screen sharing. Registration-less webinar. Using this feature, attendees can join the webinar without doing the registration. Now, we're going to see the features which are handled in meeting module. We are currently working on with the picture-in-picture view, where the video feeds in the shared screen will be viewed separately. Screen share pause. As of now, we only have the ability to start and stop the screen sharing. But with this feature, you can also pause and resume the screen sharing whenever you want. Now, we're going to see the features which is commonly handled for both. Whiteboard. We are in the process of developing the whiteboard option, which helps you to annotate, draw, and sketch. Screen share optimization. We are currently working on with the screen share optimization enhancements, so which will help you to have the screen share module to provide a better picture. Now it's time for some Q&As. Please ask your questions and we will be happy to help you out. In today's session, we have seen how to organize the webinars and conduct an online meeting using Zoho Meeting. Kindly let us know if you have any questions about any of the features that I have mentioned today. And in the meanwhile, we're also going to see some of the frequently asked questions and the answers related to it. So here's the question on how many participants you can have in trial edition. The answer is 100, which is for both meeting and webinar. So we provide the trial edition with a complete pro access before you buy the product so that you can test it on your own on how it actually works. And this question is related to the background image of the video feed during the session. The answer is you can select the predefined images and GIFs and also add effects to your video feed in both meeting and webinar. And here comes the last question, which is about the security and privacy in the online sessions. The answer to this is Zoho Meeting is absolutely secure. The tool offers multiple security features to keep your meetings safe from disruption. We have already seen on how to make the meetings to be locked automatically, as well as you can also lock the meeting during the session itself. And we also do have password protected meetings. So this will help the session to be more encrypted with the audio, video, and screen sharing. So where you can keep the information safe during the session. I hope you all have enjoyed this webinar. You can share your experience about this webinar in social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can also reach us at support@zohomeeting.com if you have any clarifications about the features that I have mentioned today.